areas of change and connectivity and waste. So just so you kind of know where we're at for the day. Okay, so we ended up with the thinking or the idea that hotspots always signal a lack of diversity, whether these are our own personal hotspots, places that are difficult for us to work with, things about ourselves that are difficult to see. You know, we all have them. Sometimes we have some nasty attitudes or destructive behaviors or belief systems. We all have those. So again, we work from a place of no praise, no blame, and we work from a place of no judgment. It's really coming from a place of psychological exploration, or if you're more comfortable with ecosystemic exploration, that's the same. So a lack of diversity in our psyche or in our psychology, again, as I said, is that place where a lack of imagination or curiosity. These are things that can be cultivated and activated. Lack of care or understanding about something can be cultivated or activated through education, of course, was one way, and through widening our sense of experiences in the world. So the question I want to work with the group with, and to pose to you to think about for a minute. Again, you can share this with your group, or you can jot it in your journal, whichever you feel more comfortable with. But it is always interesting to share these things with people at your table, because you get an idea then of how this works. You hear it sort of in situ. You hear it as it's being worked. And it's also great because we're sharing something about ourselves with someone else. I'm attempting to connect you. So if you're comfortable with that, then please feel free to share any of these things with people at your table. And if you're not, that's fine too. But jot it down so you can work with it if you feel like it. So the question around diversity, or one of the questions that we're going to work with, is that have you ever worked in an environment where the rules or the regulations were so rigid that you felt like you were in a bureaucratic desert, or that you were working through thick mud? Now, sort of think about this for a minute, or feel about this for a minute, how that kind of feels like. Have you ever worked in an environment where you felt like you worked so hard and you could not break through, you could not get anything done, you hit brick walls? You hear the metaphor, you hear the images there that I'm working with? So if you can cultivate that up, if that comes up, think about that for a minute. Find in your life when you came up against a feeling of rigidity. Where in your life, if you can remember, or try to remember, where you came up against rigidity. It could be in your family, it could have been in your family, it could have been with friends, it could have been at work, it could have been in a working group, maybe people you didn't know, and you proposed an idea. So feel free to share that, or note it down. Where in your life did you come up against rigidity? Does anybody want to share with the group? Let me ask them that. If you do, please pick up the microphone, because these are very interesting things to hear about. Do you in the back want to join the group? Please. Oh, okay. You're the official photographer. Please feel free to come forward. Yes?
Yes, one of the muddy situations have been the climate change negotiations, particularly the last summit of the UNFCCC. So that's an example.
Were negotiations? In negotiations?
Yes, but never
Yeah.
went anywhere.
Yeah.
It's a very tough, muddy environment.
Yeah.
But progress is
That's such a great example. Thank you for that. And this is where ultimately I kind of want to take us at the end of the day, at least a little bit of understanding about this, because we all are at negotiation tables, whether it's with 2 or 3 people at our work or in our institutions, or in a wider context, in a global way or a regional way. And I think what I'm trying to do is suggest that if you cultivate and develop a ecopsychological, if you will, but certainly a psychological dimension to your understanding, then you bring a different capacity to the table to work through these very difficult, muddy areas, or when you hit these brick walls. One, you notice them. You absolutely know what's happening, and you will have some tools to work with, I hope, by the end of the day when you get to those situations. It's not that you're going to tell the whole table, okay, we're all going to explore our ecosystem now so we can move through this, because that's not what you're going to do. But you will have the ability, you will have a different capacity when you leave today to kind of know how to work through those situations a little bit, I'm hoping. So keep that in mind, and let's, at the end of the day, we're going to revisit this and see if there's any movement in there. Okay, so rigidity is always difficult. And our own rigidity. So it's not, projecting rigidity on everyone else. What I'm asking us to do is focus on our ecosystem. So also think about where, when you got at the table or when you were in a situation, did you dig your heels in and you absolutely weren't ready to move, or nor were you going to move? So, where did you put on the brakes and where did your rigidity come forward? So that's another way of thinking about it too. Otherwise, we will fall into places of projection. Everyone else is rigid, everyone else lacks diversity, etc., etc. We don't know that. Okay, so here's another question. When did you feel your lifestyle was being reduced to just one role? Maybe you wear multiple hats at home, at work, in society, in culture. And for whatever reason, you were forced to carry just one role. Maybe just the breadwinner, maybe just the office worker, maybe just the CEO or the particular president or leader. Whereas before you did many things. Maybe you were forced out of your role at work to become a mother. And so for whatever the pressures were, or societal constraints, or even your own personal sense of wanting to do that, you left other roles and you just became a mother or a father. So can you think of a time in your life when you felt your lifestyle was reduced to just one role? And how did this limited diversity in your life feel to you? If you can remember, if you brought up a situation that you remember, can you also remember how you felt when that happened? And what did you miss in that situation? Was there something you actually missed about being a mother and a corporate leader, or a CEO, or a father and a minister, or a tribal leader and a family person? So if your roles were reduced, how did that make you feel in that situation? And what did you miss about carrying multiple roles? So what we're doing here is just trying to get, a very basic topsoil kind of idea of where do we lack a personal sense of diversity? Where do we lack maybe diversity in our psychology? Where do we lack diversity in our thinking? Lack diversity in our ideals. We have one way of doing things. We have one approach to things. I don't know if you guys, in the United States, there's a great country and western song, "This is my story and I'm sticking to it." And the guy goes out and plays cards all night and comes back in, and his wife says, "You were out all night playing." He's like, No, I was in the backyard in the swing. You just didn't see me. She said, "Oh, no, I know you went out." I said, "Nope, that's my story, I'm sticking to it." And he goes through this whole situation. He's always out caddying around and playing cards, and she catches him and he says, No, I was here, you just didn't see me. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. And we do the same thing. You know, I think when we're trying to get our idea across, we're trying to promote something, we have one story and we stick to it. And that can create a lack of diversity. That's what I'm suggesting. The reverse can also be problematic when you carry too many roles and you wear too many hats, that you blow yourself apart. You know, it's not that it's too much diversity, it's that there's not ecosystem management there. You're not managing your energy, your time, you know, the many roles that you have to carry. So there's an ecosystem management issue there. And we all run into that. And a lot of times that's unconscious. We don't know it until we're exhausted from it or we've been burned out from it. And then we realize, oh, you know, I carried too many things, I had to do too many things. But again, what I'm trying to do is just bring up some very, very basic examples for us just to be aware of, because exploring or excavating our ecosystem, really we have to get these things out and open, because then they help us think about something else. Something maybe deeper or more problematic or maybe more creative that we haven't thought of. It's not always about problems. There's a great deal of innovation and creativity that we don't know about ourselves as well too. So the lack of diversity that we're trying to sort of look at here is, where have we maybe missed opportunities, or where are we not aware of an opportunity that was in front of us, maybe an educational opportunity or exposure to different literature, different music, different cultures. Certainly being here in Jeju has exposed me to a different culture. I've been to Japan, but Japan and Korea are very different. I'm still trying to digest that squid that slipped down last night. It was unexpected, it came out of nowhere. But that's okay. I'm telling myself, Lord, this is diversity. This is diversity. So in the natural world, travel, of course, exposes us to diversity and meeting different people, different experiences. When we don't have that, there is then a natural lack of diversity. Yes?
I know one of the things that I've reflected on in my travels, because I'm mostly an English speaker, to not have the ability to read French or Spanish or literature from other countries. People who, when you write in different languages, a very different way of thinking about the world and one's relationship to the world.
Yes.
I feel like I really miss that. No, I don't know what I'm missing. I feel like I'm missing it.
I do too. I agree with that. I actually feel sometimes ignorant in the world stage, because as Americans, we're not forced to learn 2 languages going through school, which is an absolute disgrace. And so we have to pick it up later on. But some of us, aren't gifted that way. I have to work very hard just to get a little poquito Spanish going. So I feel a lack of diversity in that as well too. Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah. So this personal lack of diversity is very interesting to start to look at. So lack of diversity also, and this gets into some of the deeper mechanisms of it, can produce sort of a mono-psychology, mono-thinking, mono-approaches. Again, that one way of doing things, that one way of thinking about things. And that can be very, very constricting when we're trying to solve complex issues. Culturally, lack of diversity produces cultural hotspots, which I know you're all aware of. Sexism, racism, caste systems. These are all places of deep lack of diversity. When roles are so reduced by division based on gender, sexual orientation, ethnic groups, religious dogma or religious preferences, socioeconomics, then we have these very strong monocultures that lack diversity. Cultural hotspots. Cultural hotspots. So here's a question, then your next question, where have you experienced the worst example of a cultural hotspot? Where have you, it could be your own hometown, it could be in your workplace, it could be in some of your global travels. Where have you experienced one of the worst examples of a cultural hotspot, where there was absolutely no diversity in that situation. Anybody want to share that one? Yeah, yeah.
I grew up in New Zealand. I grew up in a very small town, comparatively speaking, Christchurch, South Island of New Zealand. And I come from an Indian background. And I remember growing up in the 70s, when I was a child in the 70s, and the area that I grew up with, our family were the only non-white family. Thinking about any other diversity, we were just the only non-white. There weren't even Māori people anywhere near where we were. And I had a good education, but I look back and my education was extremely monocultural. And it was almost suffocating, the lack of tolerance for diversity. And in my late teens, I decided to get out of there. And I did, and I never went back. And well, I go back to see family, but I look at that experience in the 70s and 80s, fairly conservative politics, fairly conservative, I'm saying conservative with respect to culture, values, and I look back now and I think, you know, I now have the words, so I can understand what it was, but growing up where you felt you had no way to express yourself, you had no way of connecting with the cultures around you, or they connecting with you, and it's quite interesting. I think this, having met other people from small towns who didn't fit in, and I'm just talking about identity, but there's other ways of fitting in. I think that's a common experience for people who grow up in small towns, where there's a lack of all forms of diversity, acceptance.
Yeah. You brought up something important there as well too. It's the idea of identity. Again, it's not something we have the time to go into, but it comes into play, psychologically around diversity. Is what did we engage in, or what did we experience? What were our experiences in our life that helped form our self-identity, our sense of self? And that goes into places of there's always I shouldn't say always, but for the most part, there are places in our identity, our sense of self, our self-image that are impoverished. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm too tall. I'm too fat. I'm too short. I'm too green. I'm too blonde. I'm too dark haired. I'm too left-handed. I'm not multilingual. All those kinds of things. That's lack of diversity too. It's a sense of lack of diversity that affects that sense of self-esteem, self-identity. Yeah, I grew up in Texas. Blacks were on their side of town and the whites were on theirs. And I couldn't fathom that because I wasn't raised that way. It was a town I wasn't born in. I eventually moved to because my mom took work as a director of a psychological institute there, which the whole town I think needed to be to that institute. But it was very difficult for me to understand how I had to be on a particular side of the street at 8 o'clock at night, and people, because of a different color, had to be on another side of the street. And how I feel about that today, and that's what I meant earlier about experiences that shape us. Those experiences, I was in junior high, so absolutely they shaped my sense of fierce protection of diversity, which you only got a little sense of that, right? Thank you for that. Anybody else? So the image I love to work with around some of this is the tree root, and this is a particular interesting image because we get both sort of top and bottom here. And the root system metaphor is what I want to kind of work with a little bit here. Root systems are constantly, as you know, releasing organic substances, including the dead cells in the tree tissue that can be broken down and used as a source of energy for the tree to plant, and even obviously plants around it. Our ecosystem too has a root system. our human ecosystem also has a root system. If you think of the metaphor, our family tree, there's a tree of life in almost every culture that represents something about that culture very deep and very important. The root of the problem, the stem of the brain stem, a branch of the family. You get the metaphor. So one can ask, where do I feel uprooted, or where have I felt uprooted in my life? So where have I felt uprooted, and what did I feel about that, and what did that mean for me? See, part of what we're trying to do is we're bringing up some of these experiences to not just to get you to re-remember your life, but to see if there's actually a meaning that was made from those, and to understand what that meaning is now in your life, and how it has helped to cultivate part of your attitude and belief system. Because ultimately what we begin to understand is that we all have such strong, beautiful, destructive, horrific, gorgeous life stories, and we